in addition to really sitting down and thinking about your business plan, what are some other key pieces that you really need in place before you're ready to actually engage, a company to help with design or manufacturing?
Finance, obviously, is maybe an obvious one, but what's not so obvious is how much finance. Understanding that typical brands start to break even at year 5. There's an investment period. There's these positioning years that really last between years 1 and 3. If you're doing everything right, you're out there and you've got this engagement with your target audience that, around years 4 or 5, you really start to turn that corner, and, you have a good chance to be profitable after year 5. There are exceptions to that, but there's no substitute for time when it comes to building an audience today, and building a brand. And I think understanding the finances that are going to start you here and take you through to that end point are really important to understand. I can't emphasize that enough.
A lot of times we've had people say, okay, well, I'd like to just start with, 5 items or 2 items and, order 20 of them, 100 of them, get them online, sell them, and then we'll see how it goes. And then there it is, And in all practicality, that's not the way to build a business.
It can be. It just may not ultimately work for that particular brand. We have a lot of brands today that are focusing on the best T-shirt, other items like that. I think we've talked about that in the past. So, you can run a singular item business and potentially you can do really well. If you're building a brand specifically, I think that, understanding the assortment planning in a brand well. There are core key pieces. Usually 30 to 40% of your line would be core basics that don't have seasonality generally, that don't have this forced markdown period, that can help you bring consistent revenue in. If you really build those products right and you build a following, a lot of customers will come back over and over again for those basics. And so understanding that and having a good percentage in there limits your risk and extends the period of time that you can carry that inventory. But then you have fashion basics and fashion pieces. Fashion pieces generally, they're more limited buys. They're things that provide excitement, that focus maybe the visionary elements of your brand and draw the consumer to you. Those things, especially as new brands, those things become challenging because, you might have minimums that you need to purchase and you might not have the audience to sustain it. And you realize that those might have a seasonality or, you want to consistently refresh those fashion businesses. The markdowns and the liquidation of those items can be expensive.
Okay, so you've talked about the assortment plan, but what about the supply chain behind it?
Yeah, again, varies dramatically from year 1, in most cases, to year 5. When volumes are lower, traditionally our experience has been, if possible, brands find close to home manufacturing that can produce smaller minimums, that can react to items that are successfully and well received. And today that can be certainly challenging in the US because we don't have a ton of manufacturing and that manufacturing is expensive. But I have seen that as a consistent path for brands where they're bringing in their audience and they're attracting that audience, and then at one point, they make the decision to go offshore. When they go offshore, that whole combination that we talk about, certain styles that can last, year after year, core basics, or certain ones that can be 6 months, or certain ones that are fashion that last, perhaps a quarter or less. That supply chain becomes more complicated. You have minimums to deal with and you have lead times to deal with.
We all know to launch a company, a brand, you need more than product.
Yeah.
You need marketing infrastructure.
Yep. Absolutely. Plug for Emily right there. Yeah.
Well, it's so important.
I agree, especially today. I mean, when we're moving so much of our business and interacting with our consumer online, and there's so much noise online, there is this science behind marketing today.
Yeah.
And there is this goal. And again, that takes investment in dollars. And, one of the key things that startups don't really anticipate, I was one years ago, is the investment of time. I mean, you can spend 23 out of 24 hours a day trying to manage the business, and because you don't have the funds to really manage, have different people manage different aspects of that business. You feel like you're doing it all yourself. And sometimes things have to, some get pushed on the back burner and, some get moved up front based upon priority. But today, I think it's very important within that business plan to paint a very good understanding of the role that marketing does play in your success.
Are there any other kind of key bits of advice you would want to share?
I think today it's really important to align yourself with experience when you're going out and starting a brand. And understand that in many cases, an expense for launching a brand can be, when you're talking about inventory and even limited employees and periods of time, you're investing as much as you would on a house, sometimes as much as a big house.
Right.
And so, a lot of people, if you put it in that context, they're going to make plans differently, and they're going to really vet this opportunity that exists out there that they think for them, and they should really vet that with some skilled individuals that can ask tons of questions, that can really vet that opportunity and make sure that they're just not, so many times we've seen people that have just thrown a lot of money away and not survive, and the ideas, frankly, have been good.